The world woke up to breaking news that spread like wildfire across every media platform. For the first time in many years, two powerful world leaders, Donald Trump and William Ruto, had come together with one message that carried the weight of thunder. Their message was clear, short, and filled with anger. They gave the Nigerian government just 24 hours to release Nnamdi Kanu from DSS custody or face serious consequences. It was no longer politics. It was a direct warning that shook the highest seat of power in Nigeria. Donald Trump's voice echoed across the world during a live broadcast from Washington. He looked directly at the camera and spoke with the kind of authority only a man of his status could carry. He said, "The Nigerian government has no more time to waste. I am giving them 24 hours to release Nnamdi Kanu. If anything happens to him while in DSS custody, Nigeria will face what they have never faced before. This is not a threat, it is a promise." The tone of his voice sent a wave of fear through the hearts of many leaders in Africa. No one expected Trump to speak so boldly on the issue, but his words were sharp and final. The entire world began to talk about it. Social media exploded. News channels ran breaking headlines one after another. People began to wonder if this was the turning point in Nnamdi Kanu's long struggle for freedom. Not long after Trump's statement, President William Ruto of Kenya also spoke out. His voice carried calm power, but his message was just as strong. Standing before a crowd in Nairobi, he declared, "We have tolerated this situation for too long. Africa cannot remain silent while one man suffers in chains for speaking his truth. Nigeria must do the right thing now. I stand with President Trump on this. If Nnamdi Kanu is not released in 24 hours, the world will see a reaction they have never seen before." Those words from Ruto made the situation even more serious. It was no longer an internal matter of Nigeria, it had become an international concern. The two presidents had drawn a clear line, a line that Nigeria could not afford to cross. People everywhere began to question what would happen if the deadline passed without action. In Abuja, the atmosphere grew tense. Inside the Aso Rock villa, top officials gathered in long emergency meetings. The security chiefs were restless. The Minister of Foreign Affairs kept receiving calls from diplomats around the world. Everyone wanted to know what Nigeria's next move would be. The pressure was too heavy. The silence from President Tinubu made it even worse. Every minute that passed felt like an hour. Across Nigeria, people began to talk in whispers. Some believed the government would ignore the warning, while others thought Tinubu would bow to the pressure. The fear of war hung in the air. Families discussed the news over dinner, wondering if something big was about to happen. The entire country waited for the president to speak. That night, the DSS headquarters in Abuja was surrounded by heavy security. Rumors spread that foreign agents were watching the building from a distance. Some said secret talks were already taking place behind closed doors. Others said America had already sent a special message to the Nigerian military. No one knew what was true, but everyone knew one thing: the world was watching Nigeria closely. In Washington, Trump held another short meeting with his team. He told them, "We will not sit back and watch injustice continue. If Nigeria refuses to release him, we are ready for action." Those words made headlines again. The pressure continued to build. In Kenya, Ruto's government also prepared to stand by Trump's decision. Ruto believed that justice must be seen, not just spoken about. He saw Nnamdi Kanu's detention as an embarrassment to African leadership. He believed that every African leader should have the courage to stand up for what is right. He said, "This is not just about one man. It is about freedom, justice, and respect for humanity." As the 24-hour deadline began to count down, the tension across Nigeria grew unbearable. Soldiers were placed on alert in different states. The streets of Abuja became quieter than usual. The international community kept their eyes fixed on Nigeria, waiting for Tinubu's response. Inside Aso Rock, President Tinubu was silent for a long time. He sat alone in his office, watching the news replaying Trump's and Ruto's statements over and over. He knew the world expected him to act. He also knew that his next decision could change Nigeria's history forever. He did not want war. He did not want his name to go down in shame. But he also did not want to look weak before the world. The night became long. Reports came in from different embassies warning of possible sanctions if Nigeria ignored the demand. Pressure mounted from international bodies. Even some African leaders started to quietly side with Trump and Ruto. The Nigerian public waited in silence. Everyone was counting the hours. By midnight, the internet was full of posts, prayers, and protests. Nigerians everywhere demanded answers. Trump's 24-hour countdown had already become the biggest topic on earth. The message was clear and simple: release Nnamdi Kanu or face the consequences. Inside that heavy silence, one thing became clear: Nigeria had reached a turning point. For the first time, the world's attention was on the fate of one man, and the decision now rested on the shoulders of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What he would say next would either bring peace or spark a crisis that could shake the continent. That was how the world waited, breathless, tense, and unsure, for Tinubu's final word. The whole world waited for President Tinubu's response. The pressure was massive. In every corner of Nigeria, people were talking about Trump's 24-hour ultimatum and Ruto's strong support. Everyone wanted to know if Tinubu would stand his ground or give in. Inside Aso Rock, the tension was high. Government officials were restless. Some of them whispered that Nigeria should not bow to foreign pressure, while others said that releasing Nnamdi Kanu was the only way to avoid international trouble. For hours, President Tinubu said nothing. He listened to his advisors, one after another, but his face remained calm. His silence made everyone around him nervous. He knew the decision he was about to make would not just affect Nnamdi Kanu, it would also shape his image as a leader. The country was divided, and the world was watching. Tinubu understood that one wrong word could lead to chaos. Late in the evening, after long hours of private reflection, Tinubu finally asked his media team to prepare a national address. The cameras were set up inside the presidential villa. It was quiet everywhere. The ministers, military heads, and top aides all gathered, waiting for him to speak. When Tinubu walked in, everyone stood. He looked tired, but his expression showed strength. He began to speak slowly and firmly. "My fellow Nigerians," he said, "I have heard what President Donald Trump and President William Ruto have said. I have listened carefully to their warning. I know the world is watching Nigeria. I also know the weight of this moment. I want to make it clear that Nigeria is a sovereign nation, and we make decisions based on our laws, not on pressure." He paused, then continued. "However," he said, "I have also thought deeply about what is right for our country. I have decided that Nnamdi Kanu will be released, but only under one condition." The hall went silent. Every ear in the room focused on his next words. Tinubu lifted his head and said clearly, if Nnamdi Kanu is to be released, he must publicly promise to maintain peace. He must tell his followers that violence and hatred will not bring freedom. He must use his voice to unite, not to divide. That is my only condition. The room remained silent. Even those who had been against his decision before said nothing. Tinubu had chosen his words carefully. He wanted the world to see that he was not weak, but also not heartless. He wanted justice, but he also wanted peace. He continued, "Let no one mistake our decision as a sign of fear. Nigeria is a strong nation, but strength without peace means nothing. The time has come for healing. The time has come for unity. If Kanu truly loves his people, let him come out and speak for peace. Let him tell the youth to drop their weapons and choose dialogue. That is the condition I place before his release." Tinubu's message was not only directed at Trump and Ruto, it was also a message to Nigerians, especially those who had been following Kanu's struggle. He wanted to make it clear that the country could only move forward through peace, not through endless conflict. After he finished speaking, the hall filled with quiet applause. Even some of his strongest critics within the government nodded in agreement. The international community received his words almost immediately. Within minutes, major news outlets around the world were broadcasting his statement. Headlines read, "Tinubu accepts to release Nnamdi Kanu with one condition." Across social media, Nigerians reacted with mixed feelings. Some praised the president for his courage, saying he had shown wisdom and leadership by choosing peace over war. Others accused him of giving in to foreign leaders and betraying the sovereignty of Nigeria. But no matter the opinion, One thing was certain: Tinubu's decision had changed the direction of the story. Behind closed doors, Tinubu met again with his national security team. He told them that the release process must be handled carefully and without chaos. He also said that once Kanu was free, he expected him to follow his word and keep the peace. He reminded them that this decision was not a sign of weakness, but a choice made for the future of Nigeria. That night, Tinubu also received private messages from leaders across Africa. Some congratulated him for making a bold decision. Others advised him to stay alert because the world's eyes were now on him. Trump's office also sent a short note that read, "We heard the message. We respect your condition. The world awaits peace." Meanwhile, William Ruto also responded from Nairobi, saying, "President Tinubu has chosen peace. It is now up to Nnamdi Kanu to honor that peace. Africa needs healing, not fighting." By the end of that long night, Nigeria was calmer. The fear of war began to fade, replaced by cautious hope. People started to believe that maybe, just maybe, the long battle over Nnamdi Kanu was finally coming to an end. Tinubu's speech became the most replayed video in Africa that week. His voice carried a message of authority and balance. He stood as a man who had faced pressure from world powers but still found a way to make peace on his own terms. It was a move that many described as smart and strategic. As the sun rose the next morning, Nigeria waited for the next step, the confirmation that Kanu would finally be released. But one thing was now clear: Tinubu had spoken, and his words had changed everything. When President Tinubu finished his speech, the whole world reacted within minutes. News networks carried his words across every country. The message was clear: he had agreed to release Nnamdi Kanu, but only if peace followed. The tension that had filled the air for days began to ease, yet everyone waited to see what Trump and Ruto would say next. The 24-hour deadline was almost over, and the world needed to know if the storm was finally calming down or just beginning. In Washington, Donald Trump received Tinubu's message almost immediately. He read every word carefully. For a few moments, he said nothing. Then, with a deep breath, he looked at his team and said, "This is good. Tinubu has spoken like a leader. If his condition is peace, then we must support that. The goal was never war, the goal was justice." Trump then ordered his communication team to prepare an official response. He wanted his message to be strong but peaceful. A few hours later, his statement was released to the world. It said, "We welcome President Tinubu's decision. The United States supports peace in Africa. Let Nnamdi Kanu be released and let his freedom bring unity, not conflict. Peace must win." That statement changed the mood around the world. Leaders who had been silent now began to speak. The United Nations issued a short note praising Nigeria for choosing dialogue over violence. European countries followed, showing their support for Tinubu's decision. It became clear that everyone wanted this issue to end peacefully. In Kenya, President William Ruto also received Tinubu's message. When he read it, a smile crossed his face. He had been firm in his stand, but he had always hoped for a peaceful outcome. He called a press meeting and said, "President Tinubu has shown leadership. His decision to release Nnamdi Kanu under the promise of peace is a wise one. I fully support this. Let Kanu's freedom become a symbol of unity for Africa, not a source of division." Within hours, the world began to move toward peace. Representatives from Nigeria, America, and Kenya arranged a private virtual meeting to finalize the agreement. It was not long, but it was historic. During the meeting, each side expressed their commitment to peace and cooperation. Tinubu repeated his condition clearly: Kanu must promise to use his freedom to promote peace in the East. No more division, no more bloodshed. This is the only way forward. Trump and Ruto both agreed. Trump said, "We stand by that. Let peace lead the way. Let this be the beginning of a new chapter for Nigeria and for Africa." Ruto added, "Justice is not revenge. True justice brings healing. If Kanu preaches peace, then Africa will move forward." That agreement was signed within a few hours. It was simple but powerful. The decision was final. Nnamdi Kanu would be released from DSS custody, but under Tinubu's condition of peace. The The 24-hour deadline that had once threatened to spark global tension now ended with a promise that brought hope to millions. By morning, the world was celebrating. People in Nigeria woke up to headlines that read, "Kanu to be released after historic agreement." The tension that had filled the country for months suddenly began to melt away. Across the east, crowds began to gather, singing songs of joy. Many could not believe it was finally happening. After so many years of pain, court battles, and silence, the hope of Kanu's freedom had become real. In America, Trump made one final statement. Standing before a group of reporters, he said, "We did not want war. We wanted peace, and now peace has won. President Tinubu has done the right thing, and I respect him for that. I thank President Ruto for standing strong. Together, we made something good happen for the people of Nigeria." Those words spread quickly across the internet. People praised the unity shown by the three leaders. For the first time in a long while, the story of Nnamdi Kanu was not about anger or fear, it was about hope and leadership. Meanwhile, in Abuja, preparations began quietly inside the DSS facility. Security officers received direct instructions to begin the release process. Everything was done carefully and without noise. Tinubu wanted it done with respect and order. Behind the scenes, messages were sent to ensure that when Kanu spoke to his followers, he would remind them that peace was now the path forward. Later that day, another statement came from the Nigerian presidency. It read, "The government of Nigeria, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has agreed to release Nnamdi Kanu. This decision comes after careful consideration and consultation with world leaders. We hope this marks a new chapter of peace and national unity." Across Africa, leaders praised Tinubu's courage. Some said he had avoided what could have been a dangerous situation. Others called it a smart political move. But to the ordinary people, it meant something deeper. It meant the beginning of healing. Families that had suffered during the years of unrest finally felt that the pain was not in vain. By nightfall, fireworks lit up the sky in some cities. People danced, sang, and prayed for peace. The fear that had once hung over the nation slowly began to fade. On social media, Trump's post went viral, "We did it. Kanu is free. Peace wins again." Tinubu later appeared in a short broadcast from the presidential villa. His words were simple but powerful. "Let this be a new beginning," he said. "We have chosen peace over war. We have chosen unity over division. Nigeria must move forward as one people, one nation, under one flag." Those words marked the end of a long, painful chapter in Nigeria's story. The tension that had once threatened to divide the nation was replaced by a quiet hope. The message was clear to everyone who heard it. Freedom had come, but it came through peace, not through war. And so, the world watched as a new dawn began to rise over Nigeria, a dawn built on courage, peace, and the promise of a better tomorrow.